Hello and welcome to Down the Slope, Long Banger, Strong Opinion, Hibs, Hibs.pod, and anybody else that you want to get your Hibs content from. We've got another update with Ron Gordon, as I'm sure you'll have seen from the titles. I think the last time we all got together was Lee Johnson, I think. Am I right in saying? But yeah, so like I say, we're joined by Ron Gordon for an update on sort of all things Hibs and what's happening at the club. Ron, how are you doing?
Not too bad, thank you. All in all, I could be better. After last night, I could certainly be better. But all in all, good.
Good. Well, it's probably, and the timing of it's not been ideal with, like what you say, what happened last night. So let's address the elephant in the room. But so I guess, where does what looks like potential dropping out of the League Cup at the group stages sort of leave us early in the season before the league season's even kicked off?
I mean, it's a major disappointment. I mean, this is certainly for me personally, it's the first time we don't advance actually to a semifinal in a cup since I've arrived at the club. So this is a major disappointment. I think I don't think I need to I'm disappointed for everybody at the club, to be honest with you. I mean, I'm disappointed. I know the supporters are super, for them, it's an emotional investment that they have with the club, and it's a disappointment to see what happened yesterday and our inability to deliver. On the other hand, though, I see a lot of people at the club working very, very hard to take the club to the next level. And I feel I have a special kind of sense of just kind of their commitment, and I'm sure they feel devastated by what happened last night, because there are, as I mentioned, many people at the club who are just really working very, very hard to make progress, and we are making the progress. But at the end of the day, I think for most of us, what happens on the pitch is kind of the critical thing. So it wasn't a good League Cup experience, and we just need to kind of get behind it and get it behind us and move forward.
When we spoke to you the last time, the focus of the conversation was centered around recruitment, amongst other things. But I think one of the key themes that we talked about was recruitment, and specifically kind of player acquisitions. And I think your sense was that we'd had quite a strong January window, despite I think probably quite a lot of the players not really impacting the sort of first team squad between sort of January and the end of the season.
Yeah.
What confidence do you have that the recruitments that or the signings that we've made so far in the summer window will strengthen the first team over the course of this season, and that they're not just more players who are going to fill our squad, who are kind of project players or players for the future?
Well, I mean, I think it's pretty obvious that we have made some significant investments in some quality players. I would just start with David Marshall. He's a player at another level. You can see it. Aidan McGeady is another one, older, more mature, experienced. Ewan Henderson, who we got in the January window, I think is going to flourish. You haven't seen Eli Ewan, but I think you'll be impressed when you see him. He needs to get his papers, his work permit in order. Noah Kenna, I think, is also another player that is a game changer or is going to be a contributor. And we brought 10, 11 new players this summer. Are they all going to be rock stars? No, unlikely. Do we have 3, 4, 5 who can really be big contributors? Yes, and I think you can see that already. Now, there are many are coming from different countries. There's a lot, there's some risk in that. There was in our plan, there was intent in looking beyond the UK. Our number one priority is the best Scottish players that we can find. Numero uno, that's what we're looking for. So any young Scottish player that we feel can make it at Hibs, we want them at Hibs. But the next part of the plan was to cast a wider net in terms of looking for players. And the reason, to be quite honest with you, is that I thought the club, when I first arrived, was looking in a little pot. We were looking in the UK, and that's where we got players from League One, League Two, the bottom of the Championship. And we really, when you think about it, there are 100 clubs in the UK, and we would never be getting the best. We would we'd be getting a little bit of the leftovers. So I think by expanding our horizons and bringing in a different experience to our squad, we'd be improving. And I looked at And that was part of the plan as well. We're a local club, but it's a global game. And so we need to be looking for the kinds of players that can really have an impact. I'm hopeful that many of these players that we brought in are going to deliver for us. And I honestly, just the ones that I mentioned to you earlier, I think have a quality to them that I think is going to come through.
Ron, can I just ask just a quick follow-up question to that question? You mentioned some players there that you think will impact the first team over the course of this season. Do you think that we've got that balance right then so far this summer?
Do we have it perfect? No. Are there holes that we need to fill? Yes. We're being very judicious as to how we go to market and where we kind of fill the slots that we need to fill. But we've made a significant amount of progress. I think we have a more athletic, a faster team. We have more speed. I think we're not in a bad place from that perspective. Do we have a couple of holes? Yes. Are we working to perhaps fill a couple of holes? Yes. So hopefully, between now and the end of the summer, I can't tell you, maybe 1-2 more players that would add to our roster. If we can get them, great.
And sorry, one more follow up, and then I'll shut up. Are those holes positional, or are they more about player profile?
I think they're more positional.
Great, yeah, thank you.
I think they're more positional.
Ron, I'd just like to kind of follow up on what you said about the priority being the best Scottish talent. We saw over the last sort of couple of windows, you brought in Dylan Tate and Daniel Mackay, who's at the time we thought probably that they fit that profile.
Yes.
Neither have really featured for the first team. Daniel Mackay's got out 2 loans. Dylan Tate is reported to be potentially going out another loan. Didn't make it to the trip to Portugal. Are those signings that have not delivered as you would have expected them to, or are those longer term projects?
I mean, obviously, you probably better ask somebody like Lee and Stephen Keane the question, because they're the football pros. But I'll give you my 2 cents on that. I think Dylan Tate has a future at Hibs. He seems to be improving and moving along. Our thinking is, what's the best next step for him? And he's been working with the first team, so I think he's gotten a lot of really good time on the grass with the first team and the coaching staff, and is understanding a little bit of the kind of tactical approach that we're trying to kind of instill at Hibs. But if he's not going to play games, then it doesn't really benefit him. In most of these cases, however, just so you guys are, I look at, again, some of the things that we're doing on the football side. The development team that we brought together is a very talented team, and we have a full games program. So a guy like Dylan Tate will go on loan and he'll play for his other club, but he'll come to Hibs 2 or 3 days a week, and he'll play both with his team and 1 development team game. So he'll get, we don't want to overload him either, but he'll get plenty of game experience. And he will always be a little bit of a new development. You just don't go on loan and we don't see you. You go on loan and you come and practice either with the development team or the first team. We're going to rotate that. We're going to have players that will be on loan for 6 months and then come and have a 6 months tour with the first team. So we're trying to kind of, in a way, integrate them, but they need to play games. So if they're not going to be featuring in the first team, it's unfair to them not to give them a chance to play games.
Thanks.
So, but both Danny Mackay and I think Tate are in the same boat. So those are. And then, to be honest with you, I think we have a very talented under 20 team. If you looked at our under 20, very talented. I'm excited about that group coming through. And then so again, we've created, that didn't exist before, created a whole development team, fully funded, with a games program. We have 8 teams from England participating in a games program. We're participating in a Scottish Cup with other kind of reserve teams or cult teams, and we have a league as well. So there's going to be plenty of games that didn't exist before. So this is all really good stuff for on the football side.
Thanks, Ron. And hi, I hope you're doing well. I think something that's worrying quite a lot of the fan base is the fact that looking back in hindsight now, it's a lot easier in hindsight, but sacking Jack Ross now seems like it was a mistake. And then obviously we brought in Maloney. That didn't go particularly well now. With Lee Johnson coming in, obviously the League Cup group stage was a great place to build momentum towards the season. Unfortunately, it didn't go our way. What can you say to actually reassure fans? Because I think there is quite a lot of worry amongst the fan base at the moment. And to be honest, when I'm talking to my friends and about the games, it's kind of difficult to, like, I'm known as like a happy clapper. I try and be as positive about the club as possible.
Good. We like happy clappers. That's good.
But I'm being honest, I'm struggling at the moment, Ron, to maintain that with the results on the pitch. So what about the club at the moment can actually keep the fans on side?
Well, I mean, to be honest with you, I think Lee's a terrific manager. I mean, he has a great track record. I honestly feel that we did our homework in identifying Lee as the right guy for Hibs. I think he's learning as well, right? He's in a transition period. He hasn't coached in Scotland before, although he's played here. We have a lot of new players that are coming in. Again, I don't want to make excuses because it's not, there's no, you can't defend the indefensible. So this is not good enough for us. But, in the scheme of things, he's getting his kind of his feet wet a little bit, and we have a lot of new players that are coming into the squad. We haven't really been able, because of visa problems and other things, we haven't been able to really have our best 11 on the pitch, I don't think, or anywhere near it, to be honest with you. So there have been some issues, and there are what I would call transitional kind of growing pains. Again, it's not an excuse, because you can't really make an excuse. We should be better, then we should be winning our group and moving on to the next level of the League Cup, but we didn't. But if we're going to start kind of laying an egg, I'm glad it's happening now and not 3 months from now, when things perhaps are more significant and more important. So I think everybody's kind of reflecting and resetting. One of the things that you realize in Scottish football, I think you can't really underestimate anybody. You have to respect every opponent. There isn't an easy game in Scottish football that I can see. And I've been to small parks, I've been to big parks. Every game is a grinder. You gotta play, you gotta play hard, and you gotta play to win. And I think to some degree, sometimes it's the management, sometimes it's the players, but we need to understand that it's not going to be a walk in the park, and we need to come ready to play every time.
And just one more from me just now. Obviously, the news broke today that there was some form of either squad registration error along those lines today. Can you kind of shed a bit of light on what's kind of happened there and how we're making steps to ensure that doesn't happen again? Well, it's just kind of one of those things that's compounded what was already a bad night.
Yeah, exactly. It doesn't really materially, it doesn't change anything. So that's the good thing. But yes, I mean, we the ops department, made a boo-boo. Something fell through the cracks, and it's a bit of a shame, to be honest with you. I think we are rectifying. I look at the improvements that we've made, and that's one area where we've, I think, upgraded as well. So our ops department is better, but in this particular case, they made a mistake. I think they feel terrible. But again, if there is a consolation in it, it's the fact that it doesn't affect anything. It doesn't change. It would have been really bad if we had won last night and then been in a bad situation because of that. So it's a silver lining, or but yes, so that's what happened. I can assure you it's not going to happen again. I think we're very buttoned up, to be honest with you. The club is very buttoned up in many, many ways. But people make mistakes, and that was a mistake.
Hi, Ron. There appears to be a little bit of confusion around the club this season. For example, Paul McGinn signs a new contract, and then a week later signs for Motherwell. The club then announced the ending of last season's loanees, including Rocky Bushiri. Then a couple of weeks later, it's announced that he signed a new contract with Hibs. It seems to be pretty confusing for a number of fans. Do Could you shine any light on this?
The Paul McGinn, I don't get that one. I mean, you know, the reality is, I think we had a conversation with Paul. He wants to play. You know, we felt that he was not going to get a shot to play as much. And it was a good opportunity for him to get a longer term, a better deal. And you support that, you know, as we have on a regular basis. Ultimately, we want to support our players. And so that I think was the right thing for him and the right thing for us. On the Rocky, you know, we had the opportunity to exercise that, and we decided to do that. So we opted to exercise after the loan. Yeah, and yeah, I think honestly, I think Rocky is a player that's in development and is going to continue to improve. And so let's see how he does. But you know, that was something that we had an opportunity to do.
Thank you. Just one more question from myself. At this moment in time is obviously there's still a couple of weeks to go before the window's closed.
So let me just clarify this, because Adam just kind of gave me a little, I wasn't aware of this, but the reason that the Paul McGinn contract was kind of extended is because he had X number of appearances, and his contract had a trigger that X number of appearances would renewal. So that's the reason why that happened, and the timing of that. So that was the reason for it.
Okay, thanks for clearing that up. Just another question for myself at the moment. There's a couple of weeks left till the end of the transfer window, and I think quite a few fans perhaps think there are areas of the squad that could definitely be strengthened. Receiving money from obviously the Martin Boyle transfer and the Josh Doig transfer as well, will that money be implemented into the current playing squad?
Yes.
Within this window?
Well, I mean, you know, the money doesn't come all in one big. You don't get the 3 million tomorrow. It's coming over the next 3 years, and the same thing with Martin Boyle. Everything comes in dribbles. So we deploy the money and we add to it because we've also have some other funds. But you know, the bottom line is that money goes back into football. Okay. The question is, just because we have money, I think we need to be smart as to how we spend it. And so it's just, you know, we don't want to be spendthrifts, and just kind of, we want to make sure that we're making good acquisitions. And, you know, it is football, so sometimes you hit it right, sometimes you don't. But the bottom line, to answer your question, is yes, the money that from all the transfer revenues goes back into the football pool, into the acquisition pool. So and that's there for us to use. So we do have a little bit of dry powder, to be honest with you. Which if we find the right opportunities, as we talked a little bit earlier, right, they were looking for a couple of positional situations, then we would deploy that. So we have the dry powder to, if we find the right player in the right slot, I think we have the capacity to pull the trigger and move forward.
Perfect, thanks.
Aaron, the last time we all spoke, you mentioned that certain changes in staff were an attempt to professionalize the club kind of from top to bottom. I think it could maybe be argued that with difficulties in the transfer windows, and most recently this kind of League Cup exit tied with that administrative problem, maybe we haven't made that kind of progression, or perhaps taken a bit of a step backwards in that regard. I mean, at what point does it come where you say, okay, certain areas need a bit of sort of improvement from a staffing front? What would it take?
No, we have areas. We've met over the last couple of days since I have arrived. We have areas that we need to improve from a staffing perspective, but I can assure you that the staff is much of a much higher quality across the club in every respect. Now, within that, there are still areas that we need to improve, and we're always looking to improve. So, you know, even when you're perfect, you're not perfect, and there's still more that you can do to be better. So we have some additional areas that we've looked at where I think we need to make some changes and continue to improve. But is the club a more professional club? You come to Easter Road, you go to HTC, you look around and you look at the club 3 years ago and you look at the club today, it's a very, very different club, operating at a very, very different level. And I think hopefully the fans see that. Granted, everybody's kind of tainted by last night and the League Cup, and I get it. But the club is, even on the comms, you tell me, how's our comms? The content, the quality, the volume of content and engagement. The survey, first time the club has ever done a survey to reach over 10,000 respondents to hear from supporters. The game day experience, fantastic. You'll come, I'm looking at all the stuff that's been installed, incredible. You come to I know that the fans, they care about winning, I get it. And we can talk about football as well and the improvements that we've made there. But you go to the West End and we're putting in a whole new hospitality. All this is designed to give us the resources to invest in our club and our team. And then in the football, the player budget is up 40%. We've developed a whole new development squad that we didn't have before with a games program with English clubs. That is fantastic. We brought the women's game into the club. We've restructured the academy, so it's much stronger. We made an investment in HTC. The canteen is better. It's a much more elite. The whole gym is upgraded. The sports science is at another level. Nutrition is at another level. This is a different club. This is a different club. So, yes.
Thanks for your answer there, Ron. Can I just follow up with a quick one related to it? You spoke about there's still areas where, maybe new staff or, broadening those areas could bring some improvement in professionalism. Speaking specifically about the football department, really, would a sporting director be the kind of role you consider? Because from the outside, there's a lot of chat about, first timers in really big positions from a football operations perspective.
Who's a first timer?
Oh,
in a big position.
I say Ben Kensell is the first time in the CEO position. You'd maybe look at Ian in the.
Yeah, but Ben has been at more clubs and run big. To be honest with you, I think he's a terrific CEO. He's doing an incredible job. Yeah, if you look at the club and how he's accelerated our progress over the last 12 months, it's quite impressive. And I don't think there's anybody that's working harder than he is. Ian, I think, is doing a very good job as well. But it's not just Ian, and I think we had the same conversation before. It's about the entire recruiting department and the network that we're creating. We're looking beyond the UK, as we talked a little bit earlier, which comes with risk. We're looking to find players. We've had, I think, a really, really good window, if you want to know the truths, especially when you look at quality for money. We've been able to identify some really good talent that's gone under the radar. Which I think is kudos to the recruitment department for that. But that comes with risk because there's a cultural transition that needs to happen. You come from Portugal, are you going to fit in? You're all by yourself. There's a risk there. But the club is innovating and is willing to take risk. So we're doing these things. I think in Lee Johnson you have a very experienced manager. Macker is also very solid. The sports science is excellent. So I think Stephen Keane to run the academy. He's a very seasoned professional. I don't see that. There are parts of the football department that need improvement. I will say that, but I don't see that in the kind of areas that you're alluding to. Okay. I think at the end of the day, the proof's going to be in the pudding. See if of the 10, 11 players that we've brought in this summer, for example, or let's say the 12 or 13 that we've brought in over the last 8 months, how many are going to contribute? But I think you're already seeing the caliber of the players that we're bringing in. Now, they all have to play together. We have to be more effective on the pitch. You can have Cristiano Ronaldo, but, by himself, he can't do anything. You need to have a team that's working together and doing all the right things. So
he's available, by the way.
Still work that needs to happen. What's that?
He's available, by the way.
So. I know. So let's see if we can maybe get him. But he's disruptive. Cristiano Ronaldo is a disruptive player. You bring him in, everybody else goes down. You don't score as many goals. The focus is on him. Is not necessarily the right kind of. If you're building a squad, he's a superstar and he's fantastic. But the performance. If you look at the performance of Juventus and you look at the performance of Manchester United since he arrived, it's declining, and the reason is everybody gives him the ball. You go there. And the rest of the squad kind of does not deliver. I don't think we want to do that. Although if we could get him, we might want to do that. So.
Ron, you quoted that the sort of playing budget's up 40%. Sort of every part of the club has improved in the last 12 months and the last 3 years under your tenure. But 12 months ago, we'd just come off the COVID season with, I think, our second best points tally, cup finals, sitting in Europe, and our manager at the time highlighted 2 key positions that we needed to improve on. 12 months later, we're just been knocked out of the League Cup group stages with arguably the same positions needing to be filled. From a supporter's point of view,
Which positions are those?
I believe Jack Ross highlighted centre back and striker. I think it's obvious that we need a centre back because obviously the conversations have been that Rocky needs a lot of development, and Kyle McClelland has been signed for the development team, leaving us with only Ryan Poitras and Paul Hanlon. And ultimately, obviously, we have signed a few centre forwards this window, but I think some people might say they would like a little bit more tried and tested potentially in that area. But I'm just curious to where.
Well, do you think Aidan McGeady up front is not a tried and tested? I mean, I agree with you. I agree on centre half. We're working on that. Just to give you a heads up, we're working on that. So no disagreement there. We've had several interesting candidates, and I think we're hopefully closing in on an acquisition at centre half. At forward, I think we've really losing Martin. That was a bit of a hit, to be honest with you, because he was our best player. He was our speed. He created opportunities. He scored goals. Losing him, he's not an easy guy to replace. But we have made an investment at the top of the pitch, which I think I'm excited about. Once we get Kevin back and we have Bojan and we have Eli, and then you have Jair, who's going to be good. Dimitri can also play up top. Aidan McGeady, you have, I think there's some good players. Ewan Henderson as a creative player in the middle. Good. One player that we're missing that I am hopeful, knock on wood, we get through is Kyle McGuinness. He's just, we're gonna try again. He's, his recovery has just been a little, unfortunately, a little bit stop and start. So I'm hopeful that because when he's on, he's a very, very good player, but he hasn't been on for 10 months or so. Just in September.
Just to sort of follow up on that, Lee Johnson spoke to us about sort of 4-8-8-4 and the sort of way he would like the squad to be formatted in ages. Forgive me, I can't remember the exact breakdown.
Yes.
But I believe in that sort of prime category, as far as I'm aware, I can only think of maybe 2 players that fall into that just now. We seem to have a few players in the top end, like David Marshall, Aidan McGeady, Lewis Stevenson, that are maybe pulling the average age of the squad up that might actually hide it's quite a young squad. And we've seen in January that, albeit there is probably quality in the players like Melkerson and the guys that we've signed this summer, they can take time to adapt. And the first league game of the season's next week. The first Edinburgh derby is the week after that. Personally, and I can't say I'm speaking for the full fan base, it's a little bit of a worry that I don't think Hibs are in a position where we can afford a slow start to the season, and we have had a slow start to the League Cup. We're already out of one of the 2 competitions we can realistically win.
No, I agree. I mean, and I'm not happy, to be honest with you. I had a major, like, I guess I think the league putting the derby at the beginning of this for a variety of reasons. Number one, obviously, we're doing construction. We're going to get the stadium, the West End, completed on Wednesday or Thursday of the Sunday before Hearts. And they knew that, and they scheduled the biggest game of the year. And then, I mean, honestly, who schedules a derby as the opening day? You would never put Celtic Rangers. You would never put Man City and Man United as your opening day. That it just makes zero business sense. It doesn't do it. It kills your season ticket. It's just like, who does that? So I already had this conversation with the league. I just find it absurd. But in any event, that is our reality, because once it's published, it's published. And we have a big game. And I agree with you. Yeah, it puts us in a difficult position where we need to be ready to play those big matches. And not only do we have Hearts, we got Rangers after that at home. This is not, I think the scheduling is really, really poorly planned on multiple fronts. I was like shocked. I was very disappointed at the league, to be honest with you, because you would never do that. Yeah, you would never put opening day is by default a high attendance day. We get 2,000, 3,000, 3,500 people that walk up because it's opening day and it's a beautiful sunny day and it's a high attendance day. And instead of having two high attendance day with the derby and opening day, you collapse them into one and you just killed 4,000, 5,000, attendance that you're not going to get. It's just foolish. But that's our reality. That's our reality. And on the football pitch, I agree with you. We have a challenge. We need to be ready to play.
Do you feel the squad in its current form would be ready for these games in the first month?
I hope so. I hope so. I think Lee, I think Lee's going to have to rethink and reset. Again, I don't want to make excuses, but he hasn't really had a chance to work with his full squad. Half the people haven't had their permits. Johan is getting his permit in Paris today, I think, or tomorrow. Hopefully he'll be able to play a little bit in Norwich on Sunday. Jair just got his papers and he got a little bit of game time yesterday. We've had injuries with Paul Hanlon. We miss him. I mean, he's a steady Eddie. Dimitri Mitchell has not been there. He starts training on Tuesday as well. So hopefully, we've had some adjustment, and we have a lot of players that are new. So they all have to gel. And this is not, it takes time to get everything kind of flowing the way you want it. I am hopeful. I mean, I definitely, from a talent perspective, I feel good. Are we going to be able to deliver? We're going to have to work hard. It's not going to be easy, as we know. A Hearts game is never an easy game. A Rangers game is never an easy game. So, it's would I have preferred to have those games later in the season? Yes. But it is what it is. So we got to face the music.
Ron, I'll try and phrase this question appropriately. So I have a sort of running argument with one guy on Hibs.net who has a view and expresses it kind of frequently that the board, so yourself and those running the club, are only interested in signing young players, but projects with a resale value, that it's an attempt to penny pinch, I suppose. It'll be cheap prospects that would buy, or loan deals, rather than investing in tried and tested and proven players. What would you say to that person? And would you give us an idea of how much the spend has been this summer?
Well, I mean, we've spent a significant amount of money. But that's part of our strategy, is to develop players and to go to market with players. I'm very proud of what we've done with Josh Doig, for example. We placed him in the right club. We were very specific about where we wanted Josh to go. We thought he wanted to go somewhere and try something new. We were very intentional in Italy, because we thought this is where he could grow as a defenseman. In Italy, as you know, defense is kind of they're the maestros at playing structured defense, and we thought this would be a great place. And rather than having him end up at Millwall or some championship club or League One club where he would just be one of many, he's now in a Serie A club representing Scottish football and representing Hibs, and I love that. But it is part of our plan. Part of our plan is that every year or two we need to be generating income to get the pot, so that we can make acquisitions, whether it's older or younger players, it doesn't matter. But we need to be in that part of the business. And to be honest with you, in my homework, when I was looking at Hibs and developing a plan, it's not like I invented this, right? There are many clubs that do this as part of their business strategy. But probably the best conversation I had around this was with Peter Lowe at Celtic, who told me specifically that they have certain goals that they set every year in player transfers, because that's part of their business model that essentially fuels their club. And every year you can count on them doing between $15 and $25 million pounds in football transactions. And they plug that in. We are not at that level. I get it. But, you know, $1 million, $2 million, actually both the Josh Doig and the Martin Boyle, which, you know, we didn't look for that one. You know, that's together, that's a substantial investment or a return that the club has to reinvest in football, which is great. And I think that needs to be part of but, you know, are we investing only in 18-year-olds or 17-year-olds? No. We're investing wherever, and you'll see the Marjan, who's from Croatia, is 25 years old. We're bringing, well, I can't tell you that one yet because I don't know if that's going to happen. So, yeah, we're trying to find the right balance. It's more about finding the quality rather than the age. But I know exactly what you're saying, because it's certainly in our initial meetings with Lee, the whole idea of having a balanced squad, right, between the seasoned players, the players in their prime, and the development players, I think is a very valid structure. And we've tried to accommodate that. Perhaps we have a couple of little holes there. I'm not disagreeing with you, because there are, and we're looking at perhaps a couple of players who are in their prime.
Thank you. The last question for me is, what is it about the club that's giving you sleepless nights at the moment?
Losing last night, not making it through the cup. That's what, other than that, I love where the club is. I think we've made a lot of progress, but you know, the football it's a kick in the gut. I know the fans get, you know, they're emotionally invested, I get it, but man, we work very hard. We work very hard to take the club to the next level. And, you know, when you have a performance like last night, it's just a kick in the gut. And, you know, you just, wow. Football is it's a difficult thing to run a club. I know you guys think it's easy. It's not easy. And, you know, but I do feel that we have a great team and we're making a lot of progress. I mean, I just think of all the things that we're doing, you know, to just, because the club it's the football, I know, but it's more than that. Like, for example, relaunching Hibs Kids. You know, Hibs Kids not been around for years, but how many of you guys were Hibs Kids? I mean, I can't tell how many, you know, 35, 40-year-olds say, you know, I was a Hibs kid. That was defunct. There was no Hibs kid. We've revived that this year. The survey was another one. Our corporate partnerships are at another level. Then the game day, you guys will see it. I mean, it's just at a different level, the whole experience at Easter Road. So we're giving back to our fans. And, you know, I know that everybody says, you don't spend it. I had one guy, this is a curious thing, right? I'll tell you the story because I thought it was kind of amusing for me. I went to Sunnyside to the supporters club right down the street here. And a guy comes up to me and he goes, you know, the ticket prices are too high. We need to lower the ticket prices. I said, we really had not even put the ticket price up. And you need to get better players. I go, wait a minute. Did you ever connect those two thoughts? Because they kind of go together. So, you know, what we're trying to do is make the investments in the kinds of things that are going to take our club to the next level. And, you know, it doesn't always happen. I mean, I've had so many talks with, for example, Dave Cormack at Aberdeen. You know, they're not in a good place. Hopefully they'll have a good season. Certainly, hopefully not better than ours. But, you know, they invest a lot of money, and they haven't had the delivery that, you know, they were hoping for. But generally speaking, the point that I'm trying to make is the clubs that have the most resources generally are able to field consistently competitive teams, and that's what we want to do.
Thank you.
Can I go next? Sorry, guys, I don't know who's actually meant to be next, but just on that, Ron, on a scale of 1 to 10, I think you've mentioned before about becoming the third best or biggest team in the country. So on a scale of 1 to 10, where are we on that journey?
Well,
How much more do we need to make it?
We're making progress. So I look at it in a couple of ways, right? So probably the number one is turnover. That would be obviously at the end of the day our operating budget. So we've made progress. Unfortunately, as we've discussed before, you know, we had COVID. So that was 2 steps back, because the year that COVID broke out, which was 20, that was a boom, and 21 was not much better from a revenue perspective. So we took a haircut. The club took some significant losses. Now, since then, we've made some improvements. Again, I'm going back to the kinds of things that we were talking about in terms of corporate partnerships and things like that. So we're growing our top line and doing better with that. Curiously, which I'm very happy about and proud of, for example, our hospitality is sold very, very well. So I'm excited about that because that's again revenue that's going to go back to the club. But we're making progress. At the end of the day, we want to build a club, not just a team. We want to build a club, and so we're making some progress there. It's going to be tough to catch Hearts this year. It's going to be tough to catch Aberdeen as well, I think. But we're going to close the gap with them. I think already we're getting close to them. Hearts, of course, it's funny, right? This is football. A year ago, they were in the championship. Things were awful. It was bad. And here we are, 12 months later. They're playing in Europe. Things are peachy. And it's happy days. But, that's going to be tough to catch up with them because they do have, obviously, Europe. Are not finishing in the top 6, not making Europe cost us. The same thing as right now, not finishing in the League Cup cost us. So we need to. Yeah, this is the part that for me is like, we need to deliver on the football side.
Okay, Ron, a couple of times during the call, you've mentioned that you think Hibs have a strong team or have had an excellent transfer window. If that's the case, in your opinion, where would you expect Hibs to finish in the league this year? Or what would be a successful season for Hibs in your eyes?
Well, top 4 would be a successful season for us. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's what we're angling for. I'd be happy with top 5, but certainly at the top of the table. We need to be in the top of the table.
Yeah, I think most fans would definitely agree with you. Someone else jumping in? No,
I think we're good enough to be at the top of the table. I don't think that we're not, but we need, at the end of the day, we need to deliver. We need to deliver. So this is the challenge.
And I've just got one last question for myself so far. Is that you say everybody at the club is working extremely hard, and I think most fans would do believe that. And you referred to a couple of times saying that you want to take Hibs to the next level. We need to get to the next level. What would you say is the next level for Hibs?
I think from a sporting perspective, playing in Europe, consistently playing in Europe, I really personally, my goal would be for Hibs to be in the group stage of one of the European competitions. Let's start with the conference, but if we could grow to go into the Europa League, that would be fantastic, but we're not there yet. But being in Europe would be, I think, the next level for us. Having a sustainable club that is not only a great corporate citizen, but provides a unique and a special experience for our fans. And just kind of doing the kinds of things that top clubs do. And I look at the kinds of things that we're doing from a comms perspective, from a fan engagement perspective, now with the youth, having Joel, we just brought Joel into the team to help do the whole youth outreach. I think that's great because that's the future of the club. So having all these different building blocks that help our club, having an academy that is really top notch, that's important for us. So, there are many things we can do to improve. Have we improved a lot in the last 3 years? I think so. And we had COVID in the middle, so that kind of killed our momentum a little bit. But I'm very happy with the progress, other than, what happened last night. Mm-hmm. But other than that, the club, I think, is generally headed in the right direction. And a point to make, when you have a transition like we've had and new ownership and a new vision set for the club, you don't click your heels 3 times and everything happens. I wish it were that easy. It takes time, and you make mistakes and you learn. But I think our vision is a really good one. And many of the things, I look at the plan that I laid out in the AGM 3 years ago, and I would say that 85% of what's on the plan is either being done or has been done. We have some other big items like, that we need to continue to work on, but we're moving in the right direction. And it's a process. It's going to take us some time to get there, but I think we're making progress. That's very tangible to me, and I hope it's tangible to the supporters. To be honest with you, I know again we can do many good things, but you lose a game, and that's really all that everybody cares about, and it's a shame, but it's good progress, very tangible progress as far as I can tell.
Okay.
Ron, there's a growing but very vocal element of the sort of hardcore support who are feeling increasingly disconnected to the football club, not just as a result of results on the pitch. What are your executive doing about addressing some of those feelings of disconnection?
Who's disconnected to the club?
I think there's a very growing vocal group of supporters who are match-going fans who are expressing kind of disappointment at certain elements of how the club's being run, but also results on the pitch not being good enough and style of football as well.
Well, have they seen the style of football that we're playing? We just started a whole new style of football. So who are these people? Because I'm as you know, I'll meet with any of them. I'll talk to all of them. And we just had a survey. I don't think that's ever been done. I know that's never been done by the club before. We had 10,000 respondents who gave their opinion about, 100 different things about the club. So we're listening to supporters. We're very much engaged with supporters. So I don't know who, there may be some that are unhappy, but what I've discovered in football is there's always going to be some that are unhappy. That's just par for the course. But are we not listening to fans? Are we not? What are we doing that specifically I get the results because I agree with them. I share their concern, but what part of these really good fans think that the club's not doing something? Because I would beg to differ with them, other than the results, which I agree with them.
Yeah, is that not necessarily reflected in season ticket sales for this season? I understand they're down from previous years.
Yeah,
so that would indicate that some of your hardcore support.
We're down by 400,000. We just had a lousy season. Is it good enough? No, it's not good enough. I agree. But on the other hand, hospitality, the most, the top, the Emerald Club sold out. The Albion Club sold out. Our hospitality already has 3 times more people signed up for hospitality. So those supporters are stepping up to support the club.
What was the 400,000 figure that you mentioned there, Ron? Sorry.
100,000, but you meant 400.
What are you talking about?
On the season tickets.
Oh yeah, I'm sorry. 400. That's my bad. 400,000, we'd be doing great. Sorry. Yeah. Sorry, 400. So we're short 400 from our goal. Yes, it's disappointing. And I get it because, nobody was happy with last season. I wasn't happy myself. Now, I hope supporters, to me, on a rainy day, I hope they show up too. I hope our supporters begin to get behind the club on the good days and the bad days. That's the only way we're going to build a club. We need the supporters to get behind the club. And, so I hope that they're committed to the club and they support the club, which, to be honest with you, the vast majority of supporters, they bleed green and white. This is their club, and, they've been through a lot. Part of I guess to some degree for me, the challenge of Hibs, and it's a cultural one. I think supporters have been disappointed a lot over the years. They've been disappointed a lot. So when you have a moment of glory like you did with the cup, it's engraved in your heart, in your mind for life, because it's, we've had a lot of disappointments. I'm trying to change that, or I hope to change that, so that we'll have disappointments because that's sports. But, that we're playing and competing and being a club that operates at a different level. And, there may be some cynicism with supporters who are, the club, blah, blah, blah. And there's a certain negativity. And I get it because, we've, things like, I don't even want to use the word, so I won't use the word, but, You know, and I just don't, I want the club to have a different mindset. And we have to have a winning mindset, and we have to have a excellence in everything that we do. That should be our mindset. And I think, you know, to be honest with you, we're trying to get there. But again, it's a process.
Final question then, please, guys.
You guys are putting me through the ringer.
Just a clarifying question, then, Ron. I just wondered, is football performance and results, is that the primary key performance indicator to you? And if it's not, I'd be interested to know what is.
It is I think it's the primary indicator, because for us to achieve the goals that we have as a business, as a club, we can't get there without success on the pitch. As I just mentioned to you, not finishing in the top 6, big haircut, kick in the gut, not good. Not being in Europe, big haircut. That affects our ability to invest. So unless we get success on the pitch, we're not going to be the club that we want to be. So ultimately, we need to get the performance on the pitch correct. We need to do all the other things right. You know, again, I don't want us just to be, we need to get everything that the club does to operate at a different level. But ultimately, for us to be the club we want to be, we need success on the pitch. Otherwise, we're not going to get there, which is not, there's going to be an inability for us to achieve, both from an operational perspective, a financial perspective, a growth perspective, a brand perspective. We're not going to do that. And so we need the results.
Thanks, Ron.
Is that good?
Oh,
Did I
yes,
say anything
thanks.
I shouldn't have said?
Oh, probably, Ron.
Yeah, but you guys both, yeah. But give it the right spin, huh? Be nice.
No, thank you very much for your time, Ron. And,
Thank you guys very much. I appreciate all the support and your engagement and the passion that you have for the club. It's greatly appreciated, and it rubs off on me. So it's great. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Ron.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Cheers.
Ron.
Cheers.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, guys.